Welcome everyone to session 6 of learn.py. Today we'll be learning how to do web dev in Python. Here are the link to the slides and the link to the README. Yeah, I'll give some time, and if mentors could paste it in the chat, that'd be nice too. And then this is the membership portal code. It's Django Jet today. If you play Valorant, you'll know. And this is the link to the feedback form. Just please fill in the feedback form. That's all we'll say for today. And before we get started, I would like to launch a poll for the participants here. Let me see. Polls, launch polling. Okay. Yeah, this question is for us. We'd like to know what sort of workshop you'd like today. And if the majority of you have that's okay. Okay. I'm gonna end the poll in a few seconds if you would just enter your answers. And so it seems that most of you wants to code along. So we'll be trying to account for that during this workshop. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Well, what are we learning today? So first of all, we're going to, for the first half of our workshop, we're going to recap or introduce a little bit of web development. And by that, I mean, we're going to, introduce HTML and CSS, or go over it if those of you have already learned it before. And then for the second half of the workshop, we're going to be using our HTML and CSS knowledge and applying it and seeing how we can use it in Django, which is a and so, if you haven't downloaded Python, you should have already by now, 7 weeks in, but here are the instructions. And most importantly, what you'll be needing for today. So first you'll be needing Python, and then you'll be needing VS Code or any text editor of your choice. And then this is the important part, so which is to install Django. And well, first, I'm going to show you how to do that. All you need to do is just follow these instructions here. But so for example, for Windows, we need to do pip install Django. And then you'll see that I've already installed it, but that's what you'll do. And then to check if it works, you'll do Python -m Django version. Now, if you're on Mac, it'll be pip3 and Python 3. So if you hit enter, so yeah, if you hit enter, you'll see that it will output the version for us. Cool. So if you're following along, I'll give you some time to install Django. And if you have any issues at all, at any point in this workshop, don't like hesitate to, message the chat or just private message a mentor, and we'll try to help you as best as we can. Okay, right, let's move on. Does anyone have, oh God. Does anyone have questions about this part? Because I'll just close my shell. Cool. Okay, so first, let's talk about how the web works. Okay, what is the web? Okay, we use websites and we surf the web every day, but how does it work? So let's imagine that we are the client over here in California, and we're surfing the web normally, and we want to go on the website, and we're on Chrome, and we want to go on the website playvalorant.com. And what do? Our computer or Chrome will send over this request to the server that is located far away from us in Arizona. And the server will then process this request and say, oh, so this guy in California wants our website playvalorant.com. It will do some sort of computing, and it will generate, and it will prepare these files for us for an index.html, index.css, and index.javascript, and it will just send it back to us. And our browser, if we're using Chrome, will read all of the files using its like code, and it will be able to generate the website that we want. Okay, so actually what we're interested today is the server part. We want to be able to create a server or create something similar to the server where we're able to process other requests, and then we're able to process these files and prepare the HTML and CSS files and JavaScript files. Although today we won't be talking too much about JavaScript, and then we're able to send it back to the client so that Chrome can open it. And we'll be using Django to help us do this. And we'll talk more about this later. That being said, we do need to know about HTML and CSS, which is the bare bones of a website and how to build them. So we're going to be going over that first. So what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and is a markup language used when creating web pages. You're probably all familiar with HTML from last week, so I'll be going pretty fast through this. In essence, wait, did I just skip over a slide? Okay, it's fine. So let's see an example, first of HTML. And so here we have the CS32 Spring 2021 syllabus page. And let's zoom in a bit. And to view the HTML, you've learned this last week. You just click inspect element, and you'll be able to see all the elements of HTML that makes up this page. And you'll see that the CS course websites are all made using really simple HTML. So we're able to really like open this stuff and see that, oh, it actually is corresponding to what is displayed on the screen. So for example, this div tag is this header up here, and this table is this table over here, and this header is this header over here. And we're able to actually change stuff. So if I right click on this part and edit as HTML, I can change it to whatever I want, and then it actually displays it on my screen over here. So yeah, that's cool. So this is HTML, and then so let's see a demo. I am going to, so on a new folder, I'm going to create a new file called, let's call it index.html, keep it consistent. And we are going to try to write some HTML. So in essence, HTML, if we go back to this page, is just a lot of tags. And the tags look like usually they look like this. They have an opening brackets and then the tag name and then a closing brackets and with a slash. Okay, so and these tags will specify the content and the structure of our page. So what I mean by content is, as you saw just now, we could change what is inside these tags and the words will change. That's what I mean by content. And by structure, I mean that, so if we notice here, this div tag is on top of this is placed before this table, and the table is placed before the header tag, and that is also reflected in the website. We see that the first thing that appears is the div tag, and then the second thing that appears is the table, and the third thing that appears is the header. And this is sort of what we mean by specifying the structure. So using HTML, we're able to generally see how our website will look. So let's go ahead and try to write some HTML. So on the top of every HTML page, we need to have a doc type HTML. And this doc type tag tells the browser that this will be an HTML. Okay, so when Chrome is first parses our index.html, it goes like, what in the world is this? And then it sees doc type HTML. It's like, oh, okay, I know now that I'm parsing an HTML page. So all HTMLs actually files need to have this at the top. And then there's another important tag called the HTML tag. And this tag encloses all of our HTML content. So basically, apart from the doc type, all of your code should go in between this HTML tag. And this is just syntactical stuff. So you have to do this for every single of your HTML pages. And inside of our HTML tag, there's two portions. So first, we want to specify a head tag, and we also want to specify a body tag. So head tag contains information that is typically not displayed in the browser. This tag will typically set the title of our page, link the CSS code, and all that. And the body tag encloses all of the HTML that will actually be displayed in our web browser. Okay, so if we go back here, we'll see that this is actually true for all websites. So if you see here, our CS website also has doc type, also has an HTML tag, head tag, and body tag. And inside our head tag, people usually create something called a title tag. And this is just the title of our website. So I'm going to call this our title for our website, Valor. Oh, by the way, if you're following along, you don't have to create a website about whatever I'm creating. I want you to create your own HTML and CSS page as I'm creating my own about just any of your hobbies. So for now, if you're following along, you should have a file called index.html and something like this written down. So and give a title to your website for now. Okay, so I'm gonna stop for a while so everyone can catch up if they already haven't. This title is actually, as I mentioned before, head doesn't actually specify anything that appears on inside the web page itself. So where does this title actually go? And if we go back to the CS, the syllabus page, we'll see that this also has a title, and it actually corresponds to, if we see on the top of my screen here, it actually corresponds to the title that Chrome displayed. And this is to do with all of the, for example, whenever Google searches, you do a Google search, this title is what it searches for, is what it matches to, basically. And so, just to show I'm not lying to you, I can actually edit this title and say small bird box. And then you'll see that, okay, so the website did indeed change into small bird box. Okay, so, all right, let's move on. So now we're gonna start going through the body of our website, and I'm gonna start going pretty fast. I'm gonna start like typing a lot of, introducing a lot of different tags that, if you're new to HTML, you might feel that this is really fast, but for the interest of time and just so that everyone can be on the same page, we're going to be going over this pretty fast. So if you have any questions, tell me to slow down or ask me what this means. So, all right, so first I'm gonna create a header. H1 means a header of size 1, and so I can create a header of size 3, which is a smaller size. H1 is the largest, and there are 6 in total. All right, so I'm going to create a header H1, and I'm going to call it "What is Valorant?" So in between this text, in between the tags, is what the header is going to actually be. And then I'm going to create a P tag, which stands for paragraph. So all the text enclosed inside of the P tag will be displayed in a new paragraph. So I'm going to say, Valorant is a free-to-play 5 versus 5 competitive shooter developed by Riot Games. And then it's like, okay, my paragraph, this is what my paragraph will look like. Well, let's see what it looks like for now. Okay, how do we open this? Okay, so I'm going to go into this folder over here, and I'm a dummy, so I should have actually prepared this beforehand, but I didn't. So I'm going to open this folder right now. Okay, so if you open the folder, you'll see this that I have an index.html, which corresponds to my VS Code over here. So if we open this in Chrome, we'll see that, oh, okay, so it seems that everything that we put in our body tag has appeared on our screen. And just to show that this is not like pre-generated anything, I can add some text here. And if we refresh the page, it actually displays on our screen. So for example, if I want to make Riot Games bold, okay, this is annoying. I forgot the command again, but to wrap text around. Oh God. All right, so strong tag. Oh no, I was talking about a so in VS Code you can there's a keyboard shortcut where you just automatically no, but there's a I don't want to go into the settings now, but there's a keyboard shortcut that does this, so that because right now I'm typing and it goes all the way over to the side of the screen. Wait, view? Oh, view. Let's see, appearance.
Toggle word wrap down there.
Oh, here. All right, thank you. Yeah, so now everything is wrapped onto the side of the screen. All right, so now I've actually made Riot Games, the word Riot Games bold, and you'll see that if I refresh, it is actually bold. Just now, Omer mentioned something about the strong tag, and I forgot off the top of the head, but there's also lots of other tags you can do. You can do italics, and that italicizes it. You can do an emphasis, which also emphasizes the text, and there's a lot of different tags. Okay, so what was the command? The command was Alt Z, right? Is there a price tag? Haha, funny joke. Okay. All right, so let's continue writing our web page. Okay, I'm going to do an image now. I'm going to specify an image tag. And inside this image tag, okay, what is this going to be an image of? I'm going to do something called, I'm going to specify an attribute. So I'm going to do source equals, and attributes So first of all, what is an image tag? The image tag is a bit of a special tag because we can use it to display images. And the way it does that is through an attribute called source. And attributes in HTML basically just provide additional information about the HTML element. And they're always used at the start of the tag, in the start tag, and usually come in these like name value pairs. For example, source equals some value. And well, what information do we need to specify? What is the value for source? It'll be a link, some link to the image that we want to create, that we want to display on our page. And I have this link prepared here. So on Google search, I just searched Valorant logo, and then I can right-click this image that I wanted, that I like, and I can just copy image address. And then all I need to do is, just paste it into our, it's not working. Oh God. Okay, so I've pasted it. I love Vim. So I've pasted it into my HTML code. And if we go back to our demo and we refresh, okay, wonderful. So we see that the image is displayed right under our paragraph tag and right under our header tag. Okay, so let's do more. For example, let's try to create another paragraph, and inside this paragraph, we'll specify a link. This A tag is the link tag, and it also takes in another attribute. And this attribute is called href, which is whatever we want the paragraph to link to. And I'm just going to link it to playvalorant.com/enus. So that's the, maybe I should. All right. So if we go back and we see, wait, it is not updating, which is weird. Did I do something wrong? Oh yes, because whatever you put inside the A tag is the thing that will be displayed as the link. So commonly you might see click here to learn more, and you'll see that the text displayed is click here to learn more, but the link that it actually goes to is playvalorant.com. All right, moving on. Let's create another header tag, h3, and we'll do list of agents. Oh God. Right. Vim stuff, it's pretty hard. All right, and then if we'll see here, inside we might do a list, a UL, which stands for unordered list, and this list just lets us specify a bullet point list in our code. And inside the unordered list, I'm going to use another tag called li, which stands for list item. It's pretty self-explanatory. It is every item in the list. So I'm going to start typing in a bunch of agent names. Right. So if we see here and we refresh our screen, we'll see that, okay, there's a list of agents, which is cool. All right, so that's done. We're done with our HTML page. I'm done with my Valorant page. Okay. I'm going to give some time for you guys to catch up as well before we move on to the next topic. I'll put the code up here. Should we have, at the end, should we have everyone share their index.html? I think you may have forgotten how to mention how to serve the page. So we haven't taught how to serve the page, but I have gone over how to open this page that we wrote. So here I have the file explorer, and this file explorer is basically the same directory or the same folder as where this file is, so index.html. And if you have Chrome, all you need to do is, for example, you can like double click it to open it, but then if this is your first time, you may need to right click if you're on Windows and click open with, and you can click to open with any web browser of your choice. So in my case, I clicked Google Chrome. So Google Chrome, and it will open it. And this is how we can open HTML files, any HTML file actually, in your computer. But in terms of serving the page, we haven't gone over that yet. Okay, so I'm going to assume everyone's done with their preliminary HTML pages so far. Let's move on. Okay, so right now our page has content and structure, but it looks kind of ugly, right? So how do we fix this? And that is through CSS, okay? And CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And what we mean by that is, so far, we have gone through HTML, and people often think of HTML as the structural layer. Okay, it defines the structure and the content of the web page, which dictates what kind of information our website will contain. And people will often think of CSS as the presentational layer, which essentially just decorates our website and makes our website look prettier, improves its aesthetics, but it doesn't make any changes to its core structure and functionality. And then people often think of JavaScript as the interactive layer or the functionality layer. It just adds, functionality to our website, interactivity to our website. But, I did say that we won't be talking about JavaScript so much today. Okay, so, and for a Valorant reference, you can think of like for a gun, HTML is like specifying how the gun will look and what sort of gun it is. But then the presentational layer is the skin that you put on the gun. All right, so in CSS, but what is CSS, right? So CSS, you can use, how do we make our website look prettier? And it turns out that CSS is just a bunch of rules. So you can make rules like this text box should stick to the top of the screen, or there should be 42 pixels between these two elements, or this text should be red, or headers should be in this font. Okay, so you can just create a bunch of rules in CSS. So, and the actual syntax, if you haven't already done some CSS before, is just you have a selector, and you have a property, and the value. So anything inside the braces, the properties and values, it will change the selector. And we'll see what this means later. So, back to our demo, let's try to make our hobby page look a little better. All right, so in the same directory, I want to create a file called style.css. All right, and I did say that CSS is just a bunch of rules. So first, I'm going to I'm going to do something similar to what we saw in the slides. I'm going to do a body, and I'm going to say text align center. And so this block of code, it begins with the selector body, which means that everything inside the braces, these braces, will apply to what we put between the body tags, all of our body tags in our HTML file. So I've actually said that, so inside the body tag, what it basically translates to is inside the body tag, this body tag, all text should be in the center. Okay, and then, let's make some other changes before we, see how this changes our website. So I'm going to, say, actually, let's see what change this does to our website first. So how do we view the changes? So, our index.html right now knows nothing about style.css. And the way we make it know about it is we add a link tag. And we add an attribute called rel, which stands for relationship, and which specifies what relationship the link has to do with this HTML file. And this is a style sheet, so we'll call it style sheet. And then href is, and we'll specify the path to the CSS file. So style.css, and then closing tag. Yeah, so if you created the CSS style page in another directory, you may have to change this in the future. But for now, because we have this in the same directory, all I need to do is /. All right, so if we go back to our Valorant page and we refresh, okay, we'll see that everything is now in the center, which is exactly what we want, except that there's some sort of weird stuff here. Our unordered list is not doing so hot inside. So let's try to fix that. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, unordered list. How do we want to fix you, right? I'm gonna make this display inline block. And what this basically means is that inline block will place the element in line or adjacent to all of the previous the adjacent content. We'll place it in line with all adjacent content, but the element itself will be treated as a block. Okay, and inside this block we want to text align it to the center, and yeah, and then in h1, and then so if we go back here, we'll see that, and if we if we see, and then we press F5, we'll see that, okay, so all the bullet points now are at the center. That's cool. But then you'll see that if you look closer, you'll see that all of the text is not actually centered to the left like we want. We want this all to start from the left, not just be centered. And the reason why it's centered is because up here in our body, we've specified text align center. Okay, to fix this, all we need to do is inside every list item, so we've selected the list item, so everything inside these braces will apply to every single list item in our page, and we want to just use text align left now. And I've misspelled a line. And then we'll see, voila, it changes. It changes. And so you might ask, like, how can we specify text align in the body and then specify text align in the list item? And this is to do with like the cascading style sheets property of. This is why CSS is called cascading style sheets. It as you go deeper into like the sort of tree that Tim talked about last week, every CSS style can overwrite the previous one. So while body, you apply it to all of our text. The list item is more specific, and so it will overwrite that. Okay, so let's do some more CSS now. So I want all headers to have a font size 200%. This is pretty self-explanatory. All headers should have a font size of twice its size. So if all header one tags, sorry. So if I refresh, it didn't get any bigger, I think. No, it should have gotten bigger. So if we get rid of this and we reload it, and then let's try again. Let's see if I did anything wrong. 200%. And we refresh it. Oh, maybe something's wrong with my thing. Oh well, let's skip it for now. Let's actually try to change it for now. Let's do bold. Let's make it bolder. Okay, so I don't think this works, but that's okay. I think the reason why it's not bolding is because this is originally bolded. Okay, so we can get rid of that. what we can try to change is try to make every paragraph color red. And if we reload the page, okay, so that header was just anomaly. So I don't know why this didn't work like that, why this didn't change size, but at least we know that, you know, every paragraph tag, we have made its color into red. And, you know, this doesn't have to be red. You can make it, you know, blue or any hexadecimal RGB code. So let's keep it at red for now. Yeah, so, you know, we're actually done with our CSS. We've, you know, created some styling. We've made it look kind of pretty, and then we've applied it to our HTML. And, you know, so that's sort of it for our demo. Are there any questions? I'm gonna let you guys like catch up a bit on your pages, and this is and, you know, it doesn't matter if you finish. You'll also have like, you know, break time to work on it if you want to. The reason why we want to create HTML and CSS pages is because you'll then be using this page in the next part of the demo, right? And for some reason, if you you just not bother to create an HTML and CSS page, but is interested in learning like the Python part, which is the second half of our workshop, you can just copy and paste the files in from the README. So, and if we go to the README, you'll see that, you know, there's a bunch of different, my code is in examples, and my code is all here. So the code that I just wrote is all here in index.html and style.css in these files. So if you're, you know, not bothered to create your own hobby page, or if Valorant is already your hobby, then you can just use this. Use the stuff that I've created in the second half of the workshop. All right, so I've talked a little bit about, you know, I've mentioned a little bit of little bit of the tags that we can use. If for any reason that you want to learn more about what sort of tags exist, you can go to this link here. It's in the slides, and this W3 Schools is a really good website for like HTML and CSS stuff. And in this website, there's a lot of, this lists all of the tags that exist in HTML. And oh God, I forgot to open ad block again. Okay, that's okay. Just ignore the ads for now. And so these are all the tags in the description. So if you want to be creative and make your own like fancy page, you can refer to this page. And if there are those who are learning HTML and CSS for the first time, there are also like really good tutorials, HTML tutorials and CSS tutorials. What I did like in this past 40 minutes was just like a really, really quick like crash course essentially on HTML and CSS, and it's more of a recap, honestly. So if you are, you know, interested in learning more, go ahead and check out W3 Schools. Otherwise, you know, just keep working on it, and while we're working on it, we're going to enter break time, which is anything, and let's say we'll want to take a 10-minute break, so we'll reconvene at any time matching this regular expression, which is, you know, let's say 6:50, 53, and then it's PM over there, so PM. Okay. And I'm going to keep playing some music. If someone would stop the recording, pause.
All right. So for the second part of the workshop, we'll be talking about Django. So first of all, what is Django? Django is basically a Python web framework. And what that means is basically Django helps you go from your HTML page to actually hosting your server and managing all of the requests and such. So this is what we're going to be using today to basically simulate that whole server thing that Alex was talking about earlier. All right, next up, why should we use Django? Well, if any of you guys have played Valorant or CSGO, something like that, one comparison that I'm going to use is the shop that you have before rounds. All right, let's look at some of the comparisons we can make between Django and the Valorant shop. So first of all, in the shop, as you can see, there's a variety of selections. So earlier, Alex coded one HTML page, and let's just say it was the Vandal here. Well, obviously in Valorant, you can't just use one gun the entire game. So similarly, you can't just have one HTML page on your website, or else that website would be sort of boring, right? So Django is going to help you manage several HTML files and make sure that you can serve the correct files when they're needed. So basically it helps you go from one page to several pages. Now the shop here is also a one-stop shop, so you can buy anything you need from the shop for that round. And similarly, Django is a one-stop shop in order to host your web app on Python. And finally, Django also serves as a communication stream. So one thing that you can do in the shop is if you're kind of broke and you want a teammate to buy you a gun, you can request a gun. And the teammate can then buy the gun for you and you get the gun. So similarly in Django, you're able to handle requests in such a way. So if I were to request an HTML file, the Django server could basically just return that file back to me. All right, so let's go over the first few steps for setting up a Django project. The first command that you're going to want to run is django-admin start project. And then for this example, let's just say my site. What this command is going to do is it's going to create a Django project called my site. However, you don't necessarily have to name your project my site. You can name it whatever you want. For my demo, I'm going to be naming it Valorant since the page is obviously about Valorant. And after that, in order to run the project, you're going to use the line python manage.py run server. So this is going to be for Windows, and if you're on Mac like me, you're going to be using Python 3. Okay, so now that we've gone over the simple steps to set up the Django project, let's dive into the demo. All right, so can everyone see my VS Code? All right, so the first line that you're going to want to write in order to create your project is Django-admin start project and whatever you want to name your project. So in my case, Valorant. I've already ran this command, so for the sake of time, I'm not going to run it, but run this in your terminal and it should create a folder that looks like this. All right, so let's talk a bit about what's in this folder, first of all. So the main Python files that we're going to be working with are urls.py and settings.py. One thing you'll notice that is different in my setup is I have this file called config.py, and it's just a small difference. And the reason for that is in your settings.py, you're going to have a generated secret key here. However, I don't want to leak mine on recording and online. So I just put the secret key in the config file and I'm importing it here. If you guys didn't attend our module workshop, all this line is really saying is from .import config, where is referring to the current folder that I'm in. So in this case, since config is in the same folder as settings.py, I can just use this line to import config, and then I have config.key here. But you guys don't have to worry about that since you should already have one generated here. Now, just to test that all the setup worked well and we're ready to go, we can run the line python, or in my case, Python 3, manage.py, run server. Now, when I run this line, you'll see a few things. You'll see some sort of like warnings that you don't really have to worry about. But the main line that's important that we'll be looking at is starting development server at http 127.0.0.1, and then 8000. So what this line really means is that you're starting your development server, and where it's actually going to be hosted is this basically URL right here. So we can break this down into two parts. The first part is the 127.0.0.1, and this is basically referring to localhost, and it's basically just a reference to like your local computer. And 8000 is just the port that the server is currently listening to. So just to test that this worked, we can go to our browser and we can type in localhost 8000. And you'll see this basically like default landing page for Django, and it says the install works successfully. All right, nice. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to make sure that your setup worked as well. Okay, so now that we have our development server up and running, now we want to actually display some of our own files, right? We don't want this Django landing page. So let's first start off by putting in the HTML file that you guys created for the first half of the workshop. So obviously I could just create a new file within this big folder. However, if you have a bunch of files, a bunch of HTML files in the future, it's going to look pretty messy if you just throw them all into like this overall project folder. So I'm actually going to start off by creating a new folder, which I'm going to call templates. And templates is basically just going to help hold all of my HTML files. So within templates, I'm going to create index.html, and I'm just going to copy over the code from the first half of the workshop that Alex basically had. So you guys can feel free to copy paste whatever code you wrote for your index.html. Okay, so now that we have the HTML file loaded in, we actually need to basically tell Django when we want to display this HTML file. So I'm going to create a new file in this Valorant folder, and this name just matches whatever your project folder name is. It's sort of confusing, but here I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it views.py. And here, the purpose of this file is I'm going to define some functions that will basically handle rendering each of my HTML files. So in order to actually render my HTML files, I'm going to be using one of the functions that Django provides. So I'm going to first have to import that function. So I'm going to write from Django.shortcuts import render. As you might have guessed, render is the function that I'm going to be using. Now I need to define a function that will be called whenever we want to render the index.html, let's say. So I'm just going to define the function name as homepage, and it's going to take in a parameter that's called request. And we'll talk a bit more about what this parameter is later on, but just know that it's going to take in a parameter right now. And what we're going to return is render of request and the file that we want to open. So in this case, index.html. All right, so this is all fine and dandy. However, we actually haven't specified where this index.html can actually be found. So now if we go to settings.py, you're going to see in your templates object, there's this variable that's like dirs. And basically, whatever is inside of these two square brackets is supposed to refer to a folder where you can find all of the HTML files that you want to load. So in our case, it's going to be in this templates folder. but we basically need to specify a path to this folder, right? And we're going to use another cool module in order to help us with this, and that's going to be OS. So at the top, I'm going to write import OS. So OS basically helps manage some of the file paths and stuff that we're going to be using. We have this variable here called base dir, and what this essentially does is it gives us a path to our project. So our templates folder within our project is really just the path to our project and then appended by like templates, right? So how we can actually define the path here for our templates folder, we simply use os.path.join, and this is going to take two parameters. So in our case, we're going to join the base dir, which is just the path to this current folder. We're going to join that with templates, since that's the name of our templates folder. Okay, so now we've specified a function to load the index.html, and we've told Django where to find the index.html. However, there's still one thing left that we need to do, and that's going to be specifying when we actually want to call that function. Okay, so we're going to do that by going to our other file called urls.py. So urls.py, as you can see right now, there's variable URL patterns. And right now, it just has a default admin path. However, we're going to create another path. I'll explain what this path does after I create it. So as you can see, there's two parameters. The first one is going to be whatever path you want to basically match. So in this case, for the home page, we want it to just show up when we have like localhost 8000. So there doesn't need to be anything after our localhost 8000. So we really just have to match like nothing, right? And then what we're actually going to want to call is going to be this second parameter. So the function that we want to call, as you can see from this views.py, is this homepage function, right? So first of all, we have to import views.py since we want to use the functions that are within views.py, right? And you don't need the py here since views is just like the name of the Python file. Now here, we basically just have to specify the function that we want to call whenever the path is matched, right? So in this case, we're going to just call views.homepage. Okay, so now basically what's going to happen is whenever we have the path matching, so in this case, it's going to match just like localhost 8000 with nothing right after it. It's going to call the views.homepage function. Specifically, it's going to call this function with request as a parameter. Even though it's not shown here, it basically calls it with request passed in as a parameter to the homepage. So we don't have to worry about anything that has to do with the request variable. Now, if we go back to our page and reload it here, you'll see that we have the index.html file basically showing here. So I'll give you guys a quick moment to catch up if you guys are a bit behind. Okay, so I have a question about what os.path.join does. So basically, os.path.join is going to join these two paths. So this first path that we have is the path to our current basically project. So it's going to look something like it might look something like users slash like Eric Yang slash like wherever this is located. I'm just going to write like dot dot dot, and then it's going to end in like Valorant, which is like the project name here, right? And then I want to append templates to it. So afterward, it's going to basically add templates to the end here. And this is going to be our entire directory. Yeah, so views.py, all that's in here for now is just a render function for our home page. Okay, if we have no other questions, I'm going to assume that everyone basically has this set up, and you can see the index.html file. So if we look at this file, it looks a bit different than the one that Alex showed earlier. Can anyone name like what's wrong with this page right now?
It looks a bit zoomed out, if I had to guess.
Oh yeah, that might just be because my monitor is bigger, but think about like the styling that Alex did earlier.
I don't think we imported the styles, or the styles don't seem to be working.
Yes, exactly. So the CSS file that Alex specified earlier, one does not exist right now, but also two is not linked to this HTML file properly. So let's look at how we can handle all of the CSS stuff as well, right? Going back to our file directory, first of all, we want to basically create a folder to hold all of our CSS files. Let's start by creating the folder. It should be in the outermost layer right here. So this is just going to be CSS. However, another common practice in Django is that you're actually going to create another folder, which is called static. So static is basically going to hold everything that is static on our page, as the name suggests. So this includes both the CSS and maybe like images that we have on our page. So we're actually going to put this CSS folder inside of the static folder. And it looks kind of weird like this, but trust me, this is going to be more helpful in the future if you have your images or whatever, and you need to like keep them in the same folder with your CSS and whatever. You want to just keep your CSS in a folder within static. All right, so now that we have this folder set up, let's add the actual CSS file. So style.css is what we defined earlier. And let me copy paste that real quick as well. Yeah, so for you guys, just copy paste whatever CSS file you guys had before as well. So similar to our templates folder earlier, Django doesn't really know where to look for our static files at this moment. So we're going to have to go back to settings.py, and they actually don't have a space to already specify where the static files are. So we're going to add it ourselves to the bottom of our file right here. And we're going to write static files dirs is equal to, and here we're going to write os.path, os.path.join is dir, and then static. So this is sort of similar to what we did earlier with templates. However, now it's going to the static file, or the static folder, I mean, instead of the templates folder. Okay, so now that we have this set up, Django knows where the CSS files are. However, we have not yet linked. Oh, we actually need a comma after this too. Yeah, so now that we have Django recognizing where the static files are, we need to link the HTML file to the style, right? So here, you'll see right now, it links to a style sheet, and the path to that style sheet is just style.css. However, we actually need to change this up a bit since, once again, we have it in our static folder now. So I'm just going to add static/CSS to the beginning of this. And now it should be linked. So if we go back here and refresh the page, you'll see that all of the CSS has basically applied to this HTML file. So once again, I'll give you guys a few seconds to catch up with that. Let me know if you need me to open any specific file. Yeah. Okay, if no one has any questions, let's move on. So currently, we have established a way to display our HTML file. However, as I mentioned earlier, one of the key parts of Django is that we want to handle multiple pages, right? So let's look a bit into how we can do that. Starting off in templates, I'm going to create a new page. I'm just going to call it jet.html. And jet.html, I actually coded for the sake of time already. But for you guys, you can feel free to like copy your index.html over and change a few things. For my file specifically, all that's really here is I have Valorant and I need to link the style sheet. So this is going to be the same as the index.html just for simplicity. It's going to be static or /static/css/style.css. And here I just have a bit of text. So I know that like Alex is a really big Jet fan. So I'm helping him create like a Jet fan page. Basically all it says is, I love to play Jet. She is my queen. And then I have a go back basically button here. I also have a picture of Jet since Alex once again is a really big fan of Jet. All right, now that we have this new HTML file, we need to follow similar steps that we did with our index.html in order to actually render this file, right? So going back, let's go to urls.py. Or actually, first, let's go to views.py, since the first step that we want to do is just define a function in order to render this page. So I'm just going to call this function jet. Once again, it's going to take the request parameter. And this time, instead of rendering index.html, I'm going to render jet.html. So all I did here was basically copy the homepage function and replace index.html with jet.html. And the next step, we have to go to urls.py and basically handle when we want the views.jet function to be called, right? So let's say that I want the jet function to be called when we match the path of jet after our localhost. So let me write this out real quick and then I'll explain it a bit. So the first path that we had before basically matched nothing. So if we had like, if you're looking like my URL here, it's just localhost 8000. However, the second path here is going to match localhost 8000/jet. So we can try testing this now. If I just put jet here. Oh, so, oh, I think it's case sensitive. So mine is jet with capital J. So here, this is our new page for Jet. It says, I love to play Jet. She is my queen. And I'm sure Alex is really happy right now since he's a big Jet fan. So once again, I'll give you guys a few seconds to make sure this is working. So now this no longer matches lowercase jet, it's going to match capital Jet. No one ever gives love to Breach. Yeah, I don't know. I just went off Alex's preference, and yeah, he really likes Jet. Okay. So hope you guys have caught up to this point. And now we're going to go into sort of a new cool function that we have with Django. So you can imagine if we wanted to match like a lot of different pages. Let's say that we want to like match localhost 8000 / jet / 1. And then we also want to like match like / jet / 2 and 3 and so on. You can imagine it'd be pretty tedious to have to define a new path every single time for every single page, right? So we actually have a cool way to match paths within Django. So this is sort of like a Django specific way of matching. So here we're going to start off with jet, which is the basically the first part of the URL we want to match. And here I'm going to first write out the syntax. Okay, so what this is going to match is it's going to match any integer, since I defined int here. And it's going to basically refer to that integer as num. So you might be wondering, why do we actually need this num name for the integer, right? So let's go back and let's go to views.py. And I'm going to define a new function here called jet with num, and then request. So previously we have just had request as the parameter. However, now that we have this new num, which is in our basically path that we're matching, it's actually going to pass num in as a parameter to whatever function we specify after the comma. So in this case, I'm actually going to have to also handle the nums parameter, and oh, there should not be curly brackets. So nums is basically going to match whatever name you gave to this integer here. Oh, actually mine is num, my bad. So now I can actually do anything I want with num. So I could just like print it out or something. But one cool way that people use it is they'll do something along the lines of this. They're going to return this render once again with request. And when specifying the file name, you can actually try to add num into the file name. So let's say I want to render a file called like jet1.html. I can basically cast num to a string, since num once again is an integer first of all, and then I can append that to jet and then finish it off with the .html. And now it's going to render jet1.html, which currently doesn't exist. But let me just make a copy of jet real quick and change it up a bit for demonstration. So I'm just going to copy over my jet file to jet1. And instead of saying, I love to play jet, I'm going to put love in capital because Alex really loves jet. And now I have to make this path that's matched actually call the function. So the function is jet with num. And now if we go back to our browser and I add, let's say like 1 after this, you'll see that it renders this new page, which has love in capital letters. So just for demonstration, this number doesn't actually have to be 1. It could be like 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, that did not work for some reason. Okay, so I can make it like, oh, it's because like jet2.html doesn't exist. Right now I only have jet1.html, but you can make like jet like 123.html and it'll render that. But for this demo, I'm not going to go into all of that depth. But as you can imagine, there's a lot more that you can do with Django. However, that's all that we have time for today. So thank you guys all for coming to our workshop. Please fill out our feedback link, especially since this is some of like the first times that we're trying to do a code along and we want to see what you guys think about it. So yeah, fill out the feedback form to let us know. There's also a chance to win money if you guys have not heard yet. And yeah, hope to see you guys next week.